I began to identify exactly what made the difference between someone who seemed to be doing fine, but really wasn't, and someone who was genuinely living a bigger, braver, more meaningful life. The years went by, and I founded and then sold an award-winning performance development business. I gave talks around the world. I worked with senior leaders and teams from the likes of Virgin, Barclays, Centrica, NatWest, the BBC, EE, Aviva and Sky. I slowly began to understand that there was a certain set of skills that, when mastered, made a game-changing difference to how anyone's life turned out. At the same time as I'd begun to learn more about what success really meant and how to get it, I'd also begun to realise that my own life, like so many of those of my clients, also looked fine on the outside, but didn't feel fine on the inside. I had 2 gorgeous girls, a successful career. I lived in a beautiful house with a charming, bright husband. We had a great group of friends and family and lovely holidays, but in quiet moments, I couldn't help but notice that deep inside, I had a feeling of emptiness, a feeling that I wasn't truly connected to this seemingly wonderful life I was living. So one day, in June 2008, I had finally admitted that my marriage, in fact, the life I had created, wasn't what I wanted, and it was time to be honest with myself. I left the family home with 2 young girls. I moved to a rental property and decided it was time to find my one true life, the one I knew was waiting for me, if only I had the courage to find it. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. It caused a lot of pain for the people I love most, but I genuinely knew I had no choice. Aside from my daughters, I was starting with a blank sheet of paper. It was exciting and terrifying. As a lifelong self-development nut, I searched in vain to find the book, the one that would help me finally find my extraordinary life, but none of them quite spoke to all of my worries and needs. None of them went deep enough. As a result, I went on the most extreme, cobbled-together learning journey, taking course after course, studying book after book, working with coaches and teachers of all kinds. What followed was a wholesale transformation of my life. I took time to learn who I really was and what I really wanted. I changed my role to focus solely on coaching and leadership. I moved houses and met and married a wonderful man, one who incidentally is completely different from who I thought would be right for me. Together we brought together 2 distinct families involving 5 teenage girls to create an unorthodox but extraordinary family. So on that day, back in 2015, when Richard challenged me, I realised that I had never truly shared what I'd discovered. Working on instinct, I'd become good at helping my clients develop as individuals, but I'd never laid those transformative skills out in one place. I also realised that I'd never been totally honest with him, because those skills only work for people who are prepared to own their own lives, people who accept that the quality of their life is down to them, and are prepared to learn to do what it took to get the lives they wanted. Before we'd started to work together, I should have checked in with Richard. Was that him? Because if not, I wouldn't be able to help. When Richard said he just couldn't be responsible for everything, it was a huge red flag. In that moment, I think I'd realised it wasn't going to work. Though we can't be responsible for other people or events beyond our control, we do need to take responsibility for our own lives. Whatever certain self-help gurus may say, we can't control the vast, wild, and knowable universe with positive thinking or an abundance mindset. Life is always going to be full of obstacles and pain as well as opportunity and joy. But we can always take full responsibility for how we experience what happens around us. Always. If, right at the start of our first ever session, I had checked in on whether or not Richard was truly ready to be the leader of his own life, whether he was prepared to get to know himself deeply and take action based on what he'd learned, we might not have wasted 5 months of our lives on ineffectual coaching. Thankfully, my meltdown led to a breakthrough for both of us. It also led a year later to a new business, and now to this book, Extraordinary.